final case. So again, this is also from my past experience, and this case does not involve anything in data science, doesn't involve anything regarding any machine learning algorithm or anything like that. But I'm sure you will all be familiar with this textbook, or would have been familiar with this at some point of time in your life. It is the 12th standard mathematics textbook, and what technique I used to solve that problem in this situation was one of the techniques which I took from here. Okay, so the reason why I put this case is, I wanted us to understand that at any point of time in life we should be ready to solve any problem with a technique which is something out of the ordinary, which is not usually something that we would use. Okay, so, and that's what I wanted to convey through this case that we're going to discuss today. And just a small recap, right? Key takeaways from last week's session. I think 2 points. If you have to remember whatever out of all the things that we discussed last week, these two would be the most important points. So first one is understanding why a particular thing is important. So we discussed, right, current trends in business, especially in the field of procurement, how companies like Boeing, Apple, or even Maruti Suzuki for that matter, are outsourcing their production of their key components to other service providers or other vendors. So I think that is one of the trends that is shaping this today, and that was one point. And the other point was that it is always important to have a domain knowledge. So last week when we discussed the random forest model, we had a lot of features like physical characteristics of the part, or the way in which that particular part is manufactured, stuff like that. So these two things were key takeaways from last week. And what I hope to deliver today is, like I said just now, we should always keep in mind in life, not all problems or situations are run of the mill. Run of the mill as in it's not a very conventional, or it will not be very ordinary. We can't expect everything to be like that. So we have to be prepared to face anything different. So what should we do if we are out of our comfort zone? I put 3 things here. So the first thing is that think different. Okay, so and of course I think you already know this. So this is the tagline of a company. You know which company? Hello. Oh, am I audible?
Because I think it was something Wipro, and also maybe Apple also had something like that at some point.
It's Apple, yes.
Okay.
So Steve Jobs fashioned this tagline, think different. So he talks about round pegs in square holes and that sort of thing. So we should always think different. And the next thing is we have to cut through complexity. See, most of the problems that we face, right, in life as well as in work, at first sight they look very complicated, okay, but it is our job or our responsibility to simplify that problem. And this is what I'm saying, cut through complexity. So again, one company has this tagline where they say cutting through complexity. Any guesses which company? Okay, so it's you might have heard about this company called KPMG. It's an auditing firm. So they have this tagline, cutting through complexity. And then one other point is that as consultants especially, you should remember this: it is not the strongest or the most intelligent species that survives, but the one which is most adaptable to change. So this indicates a necessity to be versatile, or being able to change quickly and very easily in any situation, adapting to any given situation. And of course, you know who told this quote? This adaptable to change. Hey, come on here. I think this is a very common.
I think Darwin, huh?
Yeah, it's Charles Darwin. So, if we are talking about, so if I deliver my address for let's say 30 minutes today, if there is even 1 minute of time that I feel you should remember after this session, then that will be these 3 points: thinking different, cutting through complexity, and being adaptable to change. Okay. Now let me talk about how I applied these 3 principles in one of the previous projects that I have done. The organization for which I was doing this project was, so again, this is not a case on supply chain management. Okay, and I didn't want to bore you guys with supply chain management since we talked about it just last week, and if we do the same thing again, then you'll say this guy is always talking about supply chain. So I want to talk about something different. So this was actually a case in sports. So there's this organization called Women's Flat Track Derby Association. It's basically a governing body for the sport of women's roller skating. So you have International Cricket Council, right, which is the governing body for the sport of cricket. So all the cricket teams, by rules and regulations, they come under the ambit of the International Cricket Council. So like this, there is like the ICC, there is an organization called the WFTDA, the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, which is the world's governing body for the sport of women's roller skating. And a lot of teams come under the control of this particular organization. So I think there are around more than 400 teams located across more than 24 countries. So I don't want to go into the details of how the sport is played and all that stuff. So you can, for all that information, you just type and search for WFTD on YouTube, or you can watch this movie called as Whip It, which was released in 2009. That will give you more information on the sport. And one more reason I don't want to talk to you more about the sport is that as consultants, again, we are required to do projects in multiple domains, right? And often we don't have time to do intensive research about that particular domain and know all the nitty-gritties of the domain. So we quickly have to ramp up and start doing the work, right? So how do we get started with the project, get started with the work with the minimal amount of knowledge? So when I did this project, I did not know anything about this game. I just watched a couple of matches on YouTube, and then I understood, okay, this is what they're doing. And so how do you declare that a particular team has won? How do you declare that a particular team has lost? That sort of stuff. That's it. So I didn't do any more deep research apart from that, because most of the time we don't have the time to do that kind of research. And what I want you to understand is that how do we need to develop the knack of proceeding with the project with a minimal amount of information in the minimal time that we have available to us. So how do you do that? So this was the organization for which I did the project. And so what was the situation, or what was the objective of the project is that, so this organization WFTDA wanted to revamp their ranking system. Okay, so any questions so far? So whatever we have covered until now. Shall I proceed otherwise?
Yeah, please proceed.
Right. So the objective here was that the WFTDA wanted to revamp their ranking system. See, this ranking system, right? You see every day you see the IPL games, and after the games they publish the refreshed IPL standings, right? When we look at the table on TV, it looks so simple. Hey, it's just a table containing a list of teams, number of matches played, number of matches won, number of matches lost, what is the net run rate, and what is the points earned. And by the points earned, they just tell which is number one team, which is number two team, like that. So it seems very simple to look at the table, but if we take a moment to understand all those calculations that go behind calculating those rankings, you'll see that it is very, very complicated. So there are a lot of problems that arise in calculating that particular ranking of the team. Okay. So here for this WFTDA, this was the formula that they used to calculate the rank. Okay. So they said total number of points. The rank is calculated as total number of points divided by weighted number of games played. Okay. So what is this total number of points? That is in a particular season. So for example, if you take IPL, the season is from April to May. Okay. So in April to May, each team will play some seven matches or something. I think there are 8 teams. So each team. Sorry, I think each
14.
team plays each team. Sorry.
14 matches each.
Yeah. So each team plays the other team twice, right?
Yeah.
So 14 matches each, and so if each game is won or lost, depending on that, the team is assigned some points, and the sum of all those points for the individual games will be the total number of points. Okay. So here what they do is this individual game points earned. For each game they get this individual game points, and then they sum up these game points and get the total number of points. So how do they calculate this individual game points? So they have something called as a win-loss factor, and then they have something called as a strength factor, and then they have something called as a decay factor, and then they multiply this by 100. Okay, and see, basically the problem that this organization was facing was that they have a very complicated formula. Okay, at the outset it seems like they have only two parameters. One is total points and number of games played. But then if you look into more detail in each of these parameters, then for total number of points you take it as sum of individual points, and then individual points you take it as product of three factors, and for win-loss factor you have this kind of formula, for strength factor you have this formula, and for decay factor, like you assign either 0.5 or 1. So if you play it in the past 6 months, the oldest 6 months, so it's like for them the season is 1 year. So the 1 year is split into two time frames, one first 6 months and newest 6 months. So if you play in the first 6 months, then you assign a decay factor of 0.5. If you play in the last 6 months, you assign a decay factor of 1. So and again, weighted number of games played, they have this formula: number of games played in older 6 months into the decay factor, number of games played in newest 6 months into 1, like that. So basically this formula was very complicated, and not just is the formula very complicated, but also I told you, right, when we look at that rankings table, a lot of stuff goes behind the scenes before publishing those results. Okay, so what is that kind of stuff? So every point scored matter. Okay, so the very primary factor of this formula is the total number of points scored in the game, scored across all games for each team, right? So scoring, let's say 150 points and 170 points might make a huge difference. Okay, so every team will look to play only the best players in the squad. Okay, so they will not give any chance to new players, because it's not like cricket. Okay, so in cricket it's like you score 200 or you score 250, and as long as you win, it doesn't matter. But here it's like winning after scoring 100 points and winning after scoring 150 points also makes a huge difference, because every point scored during the game matters in this formula. So no chances were given to new players. This was one problem. And then there was no incentive for the higher ranked teams to play the lower ranked teams, or vice versa. So why did this happen? So they had something which they called as a regional bubbles in the rankings. Okay, so this is something like let's again, if I draw an analogy to IPL, it's something like so if you see the latest IPL standings, I think Rajasthan is somewhere near the top and Punjab is at the bottom. Okay, but imagine a situation where Rajasthan and Punjab always are ranked close together. Always Rajasthan is ranked 7, always Punjab is ranked 8. Can you imagine such a situation? I mean, it's implausible, right? I mean, it's like it shouldn't happen at all. But this formula gave that kind of result, where some North Carolina and South Carolina will always be close together. No matter how many games they played, no matter who was the stronger team, always these regional teams will be ranked together. So that was the regional bubbles that they were facing. And over time, no matter how many games they played, these regional bubbles, it was like a cycle. The same formula, the same point structure, and that bubble didn't break. So this was the second problem. Okay, and then what about for new teams? So for example, you have the strength factor, right, which you calculate as the average of the team rank divided by the average of the median team rank. The median team, as in there are 51 teams, then the 24th team or 25th team will be considered as the median team. So what is the rank of that team? That will be then in the denominator. What is the rank of that particular team which is being considered? That will be in the numerator. So if there's a new team which has not at all played any games, then how do you calculate this strength factor? No way at all. So they were just arbitrarily going with a value of 0.5, and again, so this also contributed to one of the problems. So how to determine the strength factor for new teams? So they had this very complicated formula, and they had this whole host of problems with this formula, like point score matter, regional bubbles, teams of a particular area being ranked together always, and then there was this problem of determining the strength factor for new teams. So these were the problems. Any questions here?
No.
So given this problem, so I'll tell you what was the approach that I thought about. Okay, usually what people do is when they are given this kind of formula, they will say, okay, so what is the problem here? So for example, I cannot determine the strength factor for new teams. Okay, so can I somehow adjust the formula of the strength factor? Can I do something different with this? Or okay, what is the overall formula that I'm using? Total points by weighted number of games played. Okay, so why do I use a weighted average of games? Why can't I take a overall average, something like that? But
Hello.
Yeah, hi, sir.
So it's like I think here what I heard is that they use something called the center of mass concept or something and try to balance. I still don't know how this is done, but this is a very complicated way of balancing this coin with the forks and everything. But here, you see what they have done. They're simple. They just use the sellotape and stuck the forks onto the side of the glass. Very simple ways, very cost-efficient way to solve the problem. Doesn't require you to think anything. In fact, Chaitanya recommended a book last week. The title of the book is "Don't Make Me Think." Okay, so this is one of the ways to do that. You don't think too much, right? It's a very simple way of solving the problem, but it's also very cost-effective and requires very less effort on your part. So, no, I am an engineer, and to confess, I did think like an engineer to solve this problem. So what I did was, so coming back to those three key principles that I was talking about in the first slide. The first one is thinking different. Okay, so what I did was, okay, let's just forget about this roller skating sport or roller derby sport for a moment and just think about sports in general. Okay, and then the next principle, cutting through the complexity. So when it comes, so we know that the existing formula or the existing method is very, very complicated, right? So I said, okay, let's think about sports in general. So in general, in sports, when it comes to ranking teams, what is the most commonly used method? That was my thought process. Okay, so why did I think this way? Because if that method is used often, it is more likely to be simple and less likely to have the aforementioned problem. Basically, it's a tried and tested method, right? So if it is a method used in many sports, and it has been around for a particular long time probably, and the people who devised that method would have already taken care of all those problems, like the regional bubbles or what is the factor to be assigned to new teams. All those problems somebody else would have encountered. They would have already proposed solutions for that. So this is the engineering way of thinking, right? Cutting through this complexity, like what we saw here is cutting through the complexity here. Okay, that was the second point. Third one is, like I said, we should be adaptable to change, right? And whatever system that we are proposing should be flexible and not too rigid, because I need to tweak it as per my convenience. See, whenever any solution that you give, if it is too tailor-made and extremely customized, it's not going to work. Okay, it has to be generic, it has to be fittable to a lot of situations. Okay, even in the case of predictive modeling, right, you have this concept of overfitting, which is fine-tuning the parameters to a very great extent that or that model will fit only that particular data set, and if you bring in the new data set next month, it won't work. So whatever solution we are proposing should be adaptable to change, and it should be flexible enough, okay, so that I can tweak the parameters as per my convenience. So these were the this was what formed my thought process, those three key principles that we talked about. Okay, so based on that, what I came up with was, I did some research and found out that there is this system called as the ELO rating system. Okay, so this particular system is used in many sports. So it's used in football, it's used in cricket, it's used in rugby, it's also used in chess. Okay, and it is a very, very simple system as well, simple formula. So this is the formula of that system. So you have something called as Rn is equal to R0 plus K into W minus WE. So Rn is what you have to calculate, the new ratings of a team. and then R0 is the old ratings or the existing ratings of that particular team. A, you have something called as weight factor. I'll come to that. And then W, you have binary variable basically. So if the team wins, then you have value of 1. If the team loses, then value is 0. Or you have a points share. Like so, for example, if each team is allocated, let's say, so if there's one team with 200 points, the other team is 100 points, then for the first team you take 60% of the points, and for the second team you take 40% of the points, something like that. You can do it. You have that option. And WE is the expected probability of victory, and then DR is the difference in rating. So you have two teams, right? So what is the rating of the first team minus what is the rating of the second team? And then we have something called as home field advantage. This is actually a very simple formula, and WE is this DR by 400. Okay, so why did I choose this formula is that it solves most of the problems that we talked about in one of the previous slides, and also it's very, very versatile. So you see the pictures here. There's no relation between football, cricket, or rugby. Right? All of them are very different sports, and that this same ELO formula is versatile enough to be used in outdoor sports as well as a sport like chess, which is an indoor game, right? Basically. So if it is able to be used in so many different types of games, then probably it has that flexibility for me to fine-tune all these parameters. So it kind of solves all these problems that I talked about in the previous slide. It sticks to these key principles. Cutting through the complexity is a very simple formula, and it's also adaptable to change. Any questions so far? I'll go into the formula. Or any other questions or any clarifications?
So I have some questions here. So how will you calculate that RO for the new teams' world ratings? Don't we have that problem here?
Yeah, I'll come to that. Go in the next slide.
So then that home field advantage, how it matters for chess actually. For other outdoor sports like stadiums matter, but for chess, these are the two questions I have.
That is where so I said that point about versatility, right, or adaptability.
Okay.
So this formula offers you that flexibility. So for games or sports where you don't have that home field advantage, you just set it as 0. That's what I did basically in this sport of roller skating, because roller skating is usually done indoors, okay, and indoors it's just a smooth surface, and there's no impact of weather conditions or dew or any such thing. So there you can have the home field advantage 0 for those kinds of sports. On the other hand, if you use something such as cricket or football, then you can set the appropriate value for this home field advantage. And even for example, cricket, right? So it doesn't use the exact ELO formula as it has made a lot of changes to this formula, and that's how they use it now. Okay, so every sport has made their own tailor-made modifications to the formula, and that's how they use it. In relation to this, I'll also answer your first question. So the R0 for the new teams, right? So you have a new team which has come in, which has not played any games. So how do you assign the R0 for that? You take the example of chess. Okay. So any new player who is any player who has to be rated in the international chess rankings table has to be given or assigned the ELO rating. So the grandmaster, right, is assigned the ELO rating of around 2,400 points. Okay, so I think current grandmaster is Magnus Carlsen. He would have a rating of 2,400. And any new player, I think it's 3,400. I'm sorry, 3,400 is the rating for the grandmaster. I think 3,400 or 2,400. I forgot the exact thing. So any new player is given a rating of 1/3 of the grandmaster's rating. So if it is 2,400, then 2,400 by 3, which is 800, like that. So similarly, so when a new team comes into the roller skating sport, what I will do is I will take the ratings of the number 1 team, just like the grandmaster races, and then I will divide that by 3, and I will assign it as the ratings of the new team. And K, I will explain the next slide.
You will do the same for the difference in rating when you are going for a new team.
Yes.
So we are calculating DR, so difference in rating.
Yeah.
we'll do 1/3 of Grandmaster and then we'll calculate difference.
Yes. Any question? Any other question?
No, not from my side. Continue.
Okay, so before I go into the nitty-gritties of the formula and everything, this is basically an overview of the activity. Okay, so what I did was I considered the first 50 ranked teams as of October 2018, and then I took around 10 or 11 months of data. Because so December 2017 was when the season started and it ended in October 2018. And so for that particular season, from December 2017 to October 2018, so these 50 teams, whatever games they played, I applied this formula that you have in the previous slide. And then I generated the new ELO rankings. So you would already have something called as a base ranking for the first 50 teams as of October 2018. I consider this as R1. Then for all these games, if I apply my new ELO rating formula, what is the rank that I will get? So that is R2. So I'm comparing this R1 and the R2, and so tried several iterations, fine-tuned the parameters, that sort of stuff, and the most optimal solution that I got was so I measured the accuracy using this root mean squared of error between the R1 and the R2. That is the old ranking obtained by the old formula versus the new ranking obtained by the ELO formula. So this RMSE gave me a value of 5.17, and this was the best that I could get, given that I was playing multiple iterations. So this was the minimum RMSE that I obtained. And so all these computations were made using the RStudio software. So this was basically an overview of the entire activity. Any questions here?
Oh, you can proceed. Yeah.
Okay. So there was one small complication that I encountered while doing this project. Okay. So this is the formula that we saw in the previous slide, right? So if you take each and every parameter, this Rn is the new ratings, which is basically the objective. We have to calculate this. R0 old ratings we already have. So for the existing team, it is all the past ratings is already available. The new team, I will use what we do in chess. Take the top team rating and divide it by 3. And so the other three, the binary win-loss, whether the team won or lost the game, that we have available already, not a problem. If I am taking the share of the points, the percentage of the points, like 60% of points scored by team 1 and 40% of points scored by T2, if I take it like that, that is also available in the game data. Expected probability of victory, I mean, this is just the difference in the ratings between the Rn and the R0, right? I think that is also available, that we can calculate. And this home field advantage, I took it as 0. Okay. And but there is this one particular factor, this k that you see here in this formula, which I don't know. Okay. And basically this k, the value of k, it's a constant. It's like when you create the formula, you set this value, and after that you don't change it. Right? I mean that's what you call constant. And each sport has a particular value of this constant, and we need for this particular sport of roller skating, we need to calculate the value of this constant. Okay, so how did I do this? So this is where, this was, I would say, the more complicated part of the project. And any ideas as to how we can do this? I mean, so this k value, we don't know what it is. So it could be like, be 1, could be 10, could be 50, 100, 1,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakh, 1 crore, 10 crore, could be whatever. But we don't have any idea. So any idea how we can do this? So what are your thoughts? Before I tell you what I did, what do you think we can do? Come on, anything that comes to mind here. Just whatever you feel. How, if you were in my shoes at that time, what would you have done?
See, I think basically, any thoughts, Swap, Jairam?
I think I would try to find out somewhat similar thing which we had in the earlier formula that tells us about whether the home team has the advantage. or the away team is having an advantage kind of stuff.
Mhm.
We'll try to figure it out from the previous formula that they were using. So any factor which is determining this value.
Okay.
So, see, my thoughts are something like this. So basically, I think, see, this K is really the, for lack of a better term, it has the place of the slope in a line. So how fast do you want the current ranking, right? The current gains to impact the overall ranking, right? Both on the upwards and downwards as well. That is what K really indicates, right? So for example, in 2 matches, if you want the ranking to go far away, it will sort of be fluctuating. But if you want it to go very, very slow, for example, then in that case, K would be very small. I think that is the role that the K plays, and that's one of the thoughts I had. Maybe, depending on that, you can choose what the K is going to be.
Yes, that is the. So I too followed a thought process which is very, very similar to this actually. But of course, I think my mind was a little bit very ordinary, I would say, when it came to the final estimation. But yeah, I think this was the direction that I took. Any other thoughts? Anyone else has any ideas which they would like to share?
We only have Jairam. All right.
So this is where we come to that 12th standard maths and some little bit of physics part. Okay. So what I did was I did an empirical estimation of that value. See, you would have done this experiment in school, I presume. Simple pendulum experiment. Why did you do this experiment? You guys remember? For what purpose or what situation did you do this experiment? Okay, come on, this
Maybe
experiment
to find some formula for time period or something, frequency.
What was the final value that you found after doing this experiment? Did you guys study a constant called as g, small g, 9.8 meter per second square?
9.8, yeah.
So in order to determine that value, you use this experiment. So that is what we call as empirical estimation. So you did this experiment, you took the readings of the time the stopwatch, then there was one other formula which you put the values of the time and all those things, and then you calculate the value of g, which is a constant. Okay, so it did something similar, right? So always in the physics lab, what you used to do, whenever you did any experiment, you used to take the readings in stopwatch or screw gauge or something like that, and then you used to plot some graph, and then you take the minimum value of the graph or maximum value of the graph, and then you say, okay, this is the final result of the experiment. Right? So I did a very, very similar approach to this. So what I did was, I had certain ballpark estimates of the value of K. Okay, because I knew that they use the same K value in football, they used in rugby, they used in cricket, chess, whatever. Okay, so what are those values? In what range are they present? Okay, so that gave me some kind of a ballpark estimate for K. And using that ballpark estimate for each value of K, I plotted the mean squared error, which is basically the difference in the rankings given by my ELO model and the original rankings as per the old model. So if I am plotting the value of K versus the value, for different values of K, if I am just plotting that error, then what I found was that error with, so when K increases, the error decreases up until some certain point, and then it reaches this inflection point where it reaches the minimum, and then again it starts increasing. Okay, so what I did was I plotted this curve and I got the equation of this curve, which is basically this, the error curve, you see, it is y is equal to, it's a quadratic equation, 0.0265 x square minus some x plus, so it's like this, you have this ax square plus bx plus c, right, that kind of a thing. And then now again from this 12th standard maths, we know that the error is minimum, that is this point when the slope of the curve is 0. So at this point, so slope is what? You take this dy by dx, which is like this, right? Take like this. So at this minimum point, the slope of that curve will be 0. Dy by dx is 0. So what you do is you differentiate that equation. So this is in the form of y is equal to f of x, right? So you say dy by dx is equal to this. You might have studied this formula: 2 into this into x minus differentiating x will give you only the constant preceding it, minus 14.018. So if I do this, I'm getting the value of x 283, which I am taking as the value of k. So this is what I did. So this is what I meant, right? So this is not your conventional data science project or a machine learning algorithm. So this is something that, you see, we all have studied these experiments, and we all have studied this differential calculus and everything. And so how do we use it? We use it in this kind of situation when it demands it. So this was what I did. Any questions here? Okay, so did we achieve what we wanted to? Let's see.
But Sai, see, how exactly did you estimate that in the current context? Because you have to estimate that, right? So currently you do not have, see, you're coming up with a new rating, right? So it is not like you're just trying to find out the k of a specific equation that's already there or the curve that's already there, but you have to come up with something, and based on that, the new curves will form. The curves of those teams will form, after you come up with the number. So how did you come up with the number?
So what I did was, so when I started out, I did not know what was the number, right? So that was my problem.
Right.
But I know that somehow that value will be something between, let's say, 200 and 300 or something like that, because normally that's what it is for other sports like football or rugby or something like that. Right? So for each value, or for a range of values between this 200 and 300, I imputed those values in the formula, got the rankings, and then got the error between my ELO rankings and the original rankings. And for that particular value of k, which minimized that error, that I took as my final value.
Minimized which errors?
So the error between my ELO readings and the original rankings given by the original formula.
Original formula. We are actually, go ahead, sir.
If you are matching your ranking with the original ranking, so won't it contain the same errors which were there in the first ranking?
Yes. I'll tell you why I did that. So one of the conditions prescribed by the organization was that the new system, right, that we propose, or the new formula that we propose, it should give a ranking table which is close to the existing ranking. So for example, let's say, today if I take my IPA points table, I think Mumbai Indians is on the top, something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So tomorrow I come up with a new formula which suddenly pushes Mumbai Indians to 6th place. So I can't have something like that. So what do I do? So no matter what formula I use, two things. One is it should not have the problems which they prescribe. For the new team, I don't have that strength factor, and that regional teams are very close together. So I shouldn't have all those problems. So that is one condition. And the second condition is, no matter what the formula is, my new rankings should not differ very significantly or very drastically from the old rankings. Mumbai Indians, it was number 1 until today, so should not suddenly go to number 6, something like that. So this was what led me to use that error between the existing rankings and the new rankings.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Not from my side.
Not from my side as well.
Right. So did we achieve what we wanted to? First point, we say every point scored mattered. So this was one of the problems that we had. So this is solved. So here we consider only the binary win or loss. So the team won, we put the value as 1. The team lost, we put the value as 0. Like that. Or we can consider. So this is one option. Or if you still want to consider points, you can consider share of points, like 60%, 40%, like that. So you don't have to play for each and every point. So you don't have that restriction of choosing only the new players in each game. That is all. Next, there is no incentive for high teams to play the low teams, because they had this vicious circle of regional teams being ranked together. So what I did was, so again, that was, so that in itself is a very big piece of work. I don't, we're almost out of time. I don't have time to go through that now. But so the way I fine-tune those parameters, right? So for example, choosing between a win-loss binary variable or a share of points. So that was what I did in such a way that it reduces these regional bubbles on. So I fixed that problem as well. So this method was able to fix that problem as well. And then we said difficult to determine the strength factor of new teams. And for this, what we say is new teams rating set as 1/3 of top teams taken, like in chess. So this solves all the other previous problems that we encountered. So this was what I did. And yeah, any questions here so far? Okay, I think just food for thought. I had this point. So we talked about integral calculus, right, in this previous slide. Any thoughts as to where we can use integral calculus, like as in not in this project specifically, but anything that comes to mind as to where we can use this particular thing? Just food for thought. What do you think?
To find the local minima, local maxima, all this.
That is one way. Any specific scenario or use case that you can think of? Any? So it's like in this industry or in this kind of a project, we can use something like that. Okay, maybe you guys have time still, or okay? It's 10:10. I'm so sorry. I think I overshot my time. Maybe okay. I can tell you this next week why I use this particular thing. So that was what I had for today. Any questions or any thoughts, any feedback? Feedback, I guess you will share in the form. Anything else that you need from?
Fine. How did your formula solve the regional bias?
We had a factor, no hits.
No, this point you're saying, right? This regional bubbles.
Oh yeah, regional bubbles.
For region.
That was actually I did a lot of work on. I think that in itself has a lot of details. If you have time, I can take you through that. Or, what do you guys want to do?
In just a minute, can you give a quick answer, Sai? Is it possible?
Okay. So what I did was I first classified the team as the higher ranked teams and the lower ranked teams. So basically, the lower ranked teams, if you see, they were teams outside of the United States. So teams in what, for lack of a better word, remote places. So teams in South America or Australia or New Zealand, like that. So I took some of those teams and I took some of the higher ranked teams, and for different parameters, right? So if you consider binary win-loss value, or if you consider share of points, then what is the percentage of instances where these teams are ranked close together? So that is, North American team will be ranked close to the regional team, remote team, as in, so North American team and Australian team will be close together. So in each month I calculated this measure. Okay, so I got the data like in October, in 50% of the cases, the US team and the Australian team were close together. In November, in 40% of the cases, US team and the Australian team were close together. So like this, for different values of these parameters, I estimated that percentage measure. And this percentage I compared for the same month, what was the percentage of the times when US team and the Australian team were close together as per the original formula. So what I found was that for one particular value of this points share, the US team and the Australian team were close together in 60% of the cases, as opposed to, so let's say, a very low percentage as per the old formula. So that's where this gives a lift over the old formula, in that it solves these regional bubbles. Does that answer the question to some extent?
Yeah, it gives a slight idea. You got with a hit and try, and you got somewhat success. So
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
There are no.
All right. Good job, Sai.